Blood for the blood gods, calls for the throne of corn. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Once again, it is time for chaos training. Today was back bicep and forearm day. So I started off with weighted chins, mainly because again, I kind of like getting the extra bicep work, plus I get a long range of motion on this. I get a ton out of those wider grip weighted pull-ups. Like my lats explode from them, but I get probably pretty close from chins, but I also get the benefit of I can actually get significantly more range of motion, again, just due to the angles and my shoulders and everything. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do chins for a little bit again. And on these, I'm not trying to chase reps at any cost. I'm actually trying to get my chin over the bar on every rep, trying to get to a full extension when most of them are from a dead hang. Right, a lot of the reps we are going to a full dead hang. So again, this also shows kind of my ranges of motion when people realize those are dead hang for me. That's it. One reason my overhead pressing doesn't always look good. But again, I'm working on it, doing pullovers, different hangs. I'm going to keep working on getting that shoulder range of motion better. So the first two I got 5, and then I managed to squeeze out 6. I'm like, well, let's really take this set hard. So I got really explosive on it because again, I like that third set to count. I mean, we get stimulus from the others, but man, my third set on an exercise, I like to kind of take it to the limit. Plus, I was really in my groove by then. It's almost like sometimes when you do 3 work sets, the first couple can almost be warm-ups to get into your groove. And on this one, I did manage to get 1 more rep, right? I got 1 extra rep on the last one. So happy with that because last week I failed that rep. Then for the rows, I know last week I did them underhand grip. I'm like, let's go back to this normal overhand grip. It always feels good to me, and I've done most of my rowing this way, but I think last week I was kind of like, well, let's get a little more bicep work. But I'm like, I don't really need all that. I did actually only a modest amount of biceps today because I tend to do a separate bicep day every week anyways. So again, the idea is I want to get some bicep growth. I want to get some decent bicep stimulus on this day, but it really is mostly about the back and to some extent forearms and stuff. But I would still, if I was someone who didn't have lagging biceps, like this would possibly be enough. This might actually be enough. But I also have a separate bicep day. And last week I did 15 sets. I'll probably do similar this week. So just to be clear before people say, well, it's not enough bicep work. Yeah, but I do a 15 set bicep workout later in the week, hitting 5 different angles, right? We do 5 different types of curls, in that 10, 12, actually that 10 to 20 rep range, so I think we get pretty good there. So all this stuff outside the chins, all my back work was 10 to 12 reps. And when I say 10 to 12, meaning I got 12 on the first set. Some of them I got 12 on the second, some of them I didn't, and I got like 10 on the last set. So it's basically me picking weights that I know with the amount of control I'm using, I can be right in that rep range. So I'm picking the weights accordingly. So then on some of those, again, I only got 10 reps on actually every one of these back exercises. All the rows I got 12 on the first set, 10 on the third set. So pretty much what we want. There's where my back's at. I got to clear that hair off the back again though. But lat spread's looking decent. For those curious, yeah, the scale went up a little between certain stuff I'm doing, plus rotating, carbs back into my diet. But it didn't go up that much, to be fair. So I'm hovering at 219 now. And again, but I'm not really in a surplus. I'm going to focus on recomposition, lean gains. I'm going to go ahead and fill back out. I'm going to get bigger, stronger, tighter, but I do want to recomp, so I'm going to lose a little more fat. And like I said, if I need to get that waistline fully tighter because of the loose skin and everything, I can always do a quick cut coming up here later where I just get it tightened up. But I feel like at this point, it's looking tighter now that I've added carbs back in just because, some of that looseness too is due to just the waistline being smaller. And so I feel like that helps. And I've noticed in a lot of the footage, some of it is actually starting to get tighter. And we know it is. I put up all that stuff comparing a year ago all over social media, right? Last January versus this January. I'm bigger, tighter, and the loose skin is tighter. So we've made progress. For an advanced middle-aged lifter, I'll take it. So let's see if we can replicate that same progress again. So if this year I can gain just as much muscle, regain just as much old strength, and tighten the skin up the same amount it tightened up in the last year, That would be an absolute win. So the one arm dumbbell row is kind of the same thing, and I dropped it down. I know for a couple of weeks ago I did a 135 for some sixes. So now I'm trying to just work with the 95 pounds, trying to shoot for 12 reps, but I didn't get it on every set. Just controlled, full ranges of motion. So on all of these, notice I stretch all the way down. And I get people who don't like the way I do these, but then people are like, oh, your back is ridiculous. But then no one likes the way I do my back work. That should tell you that maybe people don't know how to train their back. Maybe they don't. I've always had a great mind-muscle connection with my back, though. So for me, I feel all of this. I feel my lats, I feel my traps, my rhomboids, everything on all these movements. So I do what I know gives me the most mind-muscle connection, where I feel everything. So I feel my lats at the bottom of this. I feel my traps and rhomboids at the top. So notice that I don't swing to my hip. I row to my chest and armpit, and I try to get that stretch at the bottom. So when people see me that little bit of rotation, that is because I am stretching the lat as far as I can. So I'm going for my scapula spreading apart, which again, this is how you engage the lats, right? And everyone wants to do these as a partial. I have people who I had my reel I did a couple of weeks ago on it on Facebook, is it passed 30,000 views, by the way. There's so much criticism, but it's kind of like, you guys are just doing a partial for your back. Like when you swing it to your hip, and you can argue that that's what you want to do all day long, or you think it isolates the lat better, you're doing a partial. And I already get good lat isolation from pull-ups and chin-ups. So I'm trying to work everything. So all these rows, the whole idea is to work the lats through their full range of motion, but I do want my traps, I do want my rhomboids, I do want my rear delts to get worked. This is a back exercise, guys. If you're trying to focus just on the lats, that's why you do a wide grip pull-up. Okay, rows are a complete back developer. And it seems like people have lost sight of this stuff. They've lost sight of it. But yeah, this last one, I got like 11 on the left hand, and then I only got 10 on the right. It just seemed to give out. So again, that's why we start with the weak side, with the arm with the tissue loss in it. The doctor took out all those years ago. Because if anything, I'll make sure that I always lead with the weak side. So if I do lose any performance, it'll be from peripheral nervous system, it'll be on the right. So then we did barbell shrugs. And notice everything's without straps. Why? I need to double down on my grip and forearm training. As again, now that I'm doing some pulling with the stiff bar and I want my deadlift to come back up, my grip is limiting the deadlift with the stiff bar. Maybe not with a deadlift bar, but with that stiff bar it is. So I'm going to keep pushing everything without straps, and I'm going to work on direct forearm work more and more too. So we're going to keep the grip training crazy high. So I'm at a point where I'm like, no, I'm not going to strap up to do heavier shrugs. I'm not going to strap up to do heavy cheat rows. It's just to keep everything strict. And if my grip limits, it limits, but we still get stimulus in all those back muscles. And yeah, I'm trying to do shrugs on back day instead of shoulder day now. I feel like it fits better, and then also it gives me grip training. I do forearms here, and then I can really just focus on the next day on nothing but my delts. Right? Even though there's going to be splash over, all those exercises do work biceps and triceps and traps and everything else. Some of them work upper chest, but it's irrelevant because I want it to be about the delts. And since my traps get worked so hard on back day, I might as well just finish them here because I get the grip training. It's just a good place to put it. That's why I started doing it that way. And then for curls, I'm like, let me just get 3 really, really good sets. Take them to failure. So I did 3 sets of easy bar curls to failure. Considering I did those weighted chins first, if we don't count any of the 9 sets of rows, if we don't count any of it as biceps, which is probably not fair, we get 6 sets for biceps today. Yes, I know that's low, but I do 15 sets on a separate day, on a bicep day. But the idea here is let's go ahead and make sure that we get good bicep stimulus. Okay. Finish those biceps off since they did get work from definitely the chins and to a lesser extent rows. Let's finish them off. Let's make sure they're good. Also, I feel like I'm looking pretty dang thick. I'm looking pretty thick in these curls today. So definitely the carbs have filled me back out. I feel like I'm looking better here. Everything's looking bigger. But the idea, take them to failure. So these went right at failure. So a lot of them, you see me try to get a rep and it just sticks at the bottom. That's the idea. So I was in about that 12 to 13 rep range. Right, you see me struggling with it there. And then right there, I couldn't lift it again. It just stuck. So anyone who's like, it's not muscle failure, you literally watched it stick. I couldn't do another rep, it just stuck at the bottom. I tried to curl it, it didn't move. That's called muscle failure. You attempt to do a rep and you can't. You can move it like an inch, 2 inches, and it stops. So then the same thing with the last set. So I figure between that and the chins, we got a decent bicep stimulus, and then we'll really double down on Saturday and go hard on the biceps, chase that high volume pump. Right, but here was a little more tension because really we picked a nice bigger movement, just took it to failure. Right, but we didn't do anything like 15 to 20s, about 12 to 13. But the chins were heavy, 5-6 reps. So got some stimulus, and then it was all forearms from there. Right, all forearms. So to finish up, I did approximately 20 reps. Some of these went higher, but then I've started hitting failure. I probably got like 22 on the first set. So I'm like, let me just do the high rep wrist curls and then superset them with the wrist extensions. Okay. So again, make sure I get some extra forearm work. Considering I got good grip training already from yesterday and today, all the deadlifting, I did the double overhand deadlifting, then all this pulling without straps, and I'll do more and more pulling. I almost feel like maybe on the deadlift day I might just do some normal back off deadlifts instead of the double overhand because I'm getting all this grip training. I think my grip will come up just from everything I'm doing. So then we did the wrist extensions here, right? So the idea is to work the entire forearm. So I'm making sure I work everything, guys. Every muscle's getting isolated. I'm at a point where, yes, calves get worked, forearms get worked, neck gets worked. We're even doing shrugs, Only thing I'm probably not isolating is my pecs, but I'm doing tons and tons of pressing from multiple angles and then pullovers. So I haven't been. There may come a point where I might even need to start even possibly considering isolating pecs more, maybe do some extra flies. All right, might need to be done. But again, forearms, good pump there, right? Good pump on the forearms. So same thing here, this other superset. Also shows kind of where the loose skin and stuff is. These are not the most flattering angles, yet everything's slowly getting tighter. So I just have to continue that trend. That's how that's going to work. We just continue that trend. But I realize at a point, like right now, I do want to get leaner, but I don't need to get super shredded. I've had people comment in, you don't need to get a lot leaner. I'm not trying to get contest lean. I do need to get a little leaner. I do. It's actually would be beneficial. But I'm not going to try to get contest shredded now. I'm going to focus on just some recomp, some lean gains. I want to get that squat higher. I want to get the deadlift higher, my bench higher. So I do want those lifts to come up, but we need to improve aesthetics. Like I feel like trying to trim down instead of just focusing on recomposition and maybe some lean gains. I need to fill back out. I need to get bigger in certain places. And then obviously then we'll trim down a bit leaner still. Like I could still stand to lose, a couple percentages of body fat for sure. All right, I could still stand to do so. So that'll be a goal for the year. And I gave goals yesterday, kind of my goals for the year, what I want to do with body fat proportions and then some strength. I gave some numbers of lifts I want to hit. So those are goals, right? We've laid them out in January, so let's just work on it. But did this, and then I finished up with one set of hanging leg raises. My grip was giving out on them, though. I only got like 8 reps or so. And my grip was just shot from all this other work. But it still did some. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.